Welcome to our deep dive into some seriously thought-provoking ideas about fixing global issues.
Yeah.
You've given us excerpts from How We Can Fix Things, a book with insights from over 1,000 experts.
Wow.
And the author, Kizzi Nkwocha, he isn't just, complaining about problems.
Right.
He's offering solutions based on all those interviews, which is pretty cool.
Well, and what's fascinating is that Nkwocha brings a really unique perspective.
Yeah.
He is a personal development coach and a journalist,
Hmm.
a publisher, but he was also a refugee from the Nigeria Biafra War.
Oh, wow.
And his own experiences, escaping conflict and building a life in the UK really inform his ideas
Yeah.
about creating a better world.
That's so interesting. It makes you think about how those personal journeys can really shape how we see these big global issues.
Definitely.
Okay, so the book covers a ton of ground.
Yeah.
It tackles poverty, education, technology, even building a culture of peace.
Right.
Where should we even start?
Well, Nkwocha kicks things off by diving right into the issue of poverty and inequality.
Okay.
And one of the most intriguing solutions that he explores is universal basic income, or UBI.
Okay.
Essentially, it's giving everyone a regular unconditional payment,
Uh-huh.
like a financial safety net,
Okay.
no matter what their job situation is.
So like a guaranteed income floor.
Exactly.
I've heard about UBI, but there's so much debate around it.
Yeah.
What are the potential benefits even?
Well, the idea is that it would alleviate poverty, first and foremost,
Okay.
provide economic security, and it could even boost the economy by increasing people's spending power.
Yeah.
Think about it. If everyone knows they have at least a basic income, it could reduce financial stress
Makes sense.
and potentially even make people more willing to take risks, like starting businesses.
That makes sense, but I also hear a lot of concerns about UBI.
Of course.
Wouldn't
Yeah.
it be incredibly expensive?
Yeah.
And could it discourage people from working?
Those are very valid questions.
Yeah.
And Nkwocha doesn't shy away from them at all.
Yeah.
That's why he highlights all these real-world UBI experiments in the book.
Okay.
Take Finland, for example.
Okay.
They ran a 2-year experiment, giving 2,000 unemployed people a monthly stipend.
What happened? Did it solve unemployment?
Well, it's interesting. It didn't significantly increase employment rates,
Hmm.
but it did improve people's overall well-being
Okay.
and reduce their stress levels.
Okay.
So it might not be a magic bullet for unemployment,
Yeah.
but it does seem to have some positive social impacts.
Yeah. So maybe it's not just about getting people into jobs, but also about improving their quality of life
Right.
and giving them more agency.
Exactly.
Yep.
And it's not just Finland.
Okay.
The Alaska Permanent Fund has been distributing a portion of the state's oil revenue to residents for over 40 years.
Wow.
It's not a full UBI,
Yeah.
but it's given researchers a lot of long-term data.
Yeah.
They've found that it's reduced poverty, particularly in rural areas,
Yeah.
and hasn't had a negative impact on employment.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Are there any other examples where UBI has actually been tried out?
Yes. Nkwocha highlights a really compelling example from India.
Okay.
In the state of Madhya Pradesh, a UBI experiment showed incredible improvements in sanitation, food security, and even school attendance.
Wow, that's amazing.
Plus, people were actually starting small businesses, which boosted the local economy.
Wait, so it actually led to more economic activity. That
Sure.
kind of challenges that assumption that people would just stop working if
Exactly.
they had a basic income.
It seems counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but these experiments suggest that when people have that financial cushion,
Yeah.
they might feel more empowered to take risks,
Yeah.
be more entrepreneurial, and contribute to the economy in new ways.
So we've got Finland showing well-being improvements.
Right.
Alaska showing long-term poverty reduction. And India showing this potential for economic growth.
Yeah.
It seems like there's a lot of promising evidence, even with some valid concerns, of course.
Of course.
But UBI research is still ongoing,
Yes.
right? What are the experts looking at now?
Well, they're digging deeper into the long-term effects,
Okay.
particularly how UBI might impact the labor market as technology continues to change the nature of work.
Makes sense.
They're also looking at its potential for improving health, child development, and even addressing gender inequality.
Oh, wow. How could UBI promote gender equality?
Well, think about all the unpaid care work that's predominantly done by women.
Yeah.
Things like childcare, elder care, and housework.
Right.
This work is essential, but it's often invisible and undervalued in our economy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
UBI could help change that by providing women with more financial independence
Okay.
and recognizing the value of this essential work.
That's a really interesting point. It
Yeah.
makes you realize that UBI isn't just about like giving people money.
Right.
It's about rethinking our values and priorities as a society.
Absolutely. And it forces us to ask questions like, what do we truly value?
Yeah.
What kind of work should be rewarded? And what kind of future do we want to create?
Okay, so we spent a lot of time on UBI, which is clearly a complex issue with a lot of nuances.
Definitely.
But what other solutions does Nkwocha explore in the book?
Well, he dives deep into the importance of education,
Okay.
not just for personal growth,
Yeah.
but also for economic development and reducing inequality.
Right. Because education gives people the skills and knowledge they need
Right.
to participate in the economy and contribute to society.
Yes.
But it also goes beyond that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nkwocha argues that education is a fundamental human right and that it plays a crucial role in empowering individuals and creating a more just and equitable society.
And one of the examples he uses to illustrate this is barefoot college, right? I
Yeah.
remember reading about that.
Yeah.
It's such a fascinating approach to education.
It's incredibly innovative.
Yeah.
They offer non-formal, practical education
Okay.
focused on skills that have immediate application in rural communities.
Right.
No degrees, no fancy classrooms,
Yeah.
just hands-on learning that directly benefits people's lives.
And they're famous for their Solar Mamas program, right?
Yes.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's amazing.
Yeah.
They train rural women, often grandmothers,
Wow.
to become solar engineers.
Oh, wow.
These women learn to install and maintain solar lighting systems,
Okay.
bringing clean energy to remote villages that are often off the grid.
It's a double whammy of brilliance.
Right.
You're bringing clean energy to communities that need it.
Exactly.
And you're empowering women as agents of change.
Yes.
I love how they're tapping into existing community knowledge and turning it into a solution.
Right.
It's not about imposing external ideas. It's about empowering people to solve their own problems.
It's a really powerful example of how education can be a catalyst for both individual and community empowerment.
Absolutely.
And it challenges our assumptions about who can be a teacher, who can be an engineer, and where knowledge and innovation can come from.
It makes you wonder what kind of untapped potential exists in communities everywhere if we just look for it, right?
Absolutely. And that brings us perfectly into Nkwocha's exploration of the role technology can play in creating a more just and equitable world.
Okay, so let's talk tech.
Okay.
We're living in a time of incredible technological advancements,
Yeah.
but it often feels like technology is exacerbating inequalities rather than solving them.
Right.
What's Nkwocha's take on this?
Well, he sees technology as a powerful tool, but he emphasizes the need for a balanced approach.
Okay.
He talks about the potential of artificial intelligence, blockchain,
Yeah.
and digital platforms to transform industries, democratize access to resources, and create new opportunities.
Yeah.
But he also recognizes the potential risks.
Like the digital divide.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not everyone has equal access to technology or the skills to use it effectively.
Absolutely.
Nkwocha stresses the importance of addressing the digital divide so that everyone can participate in the digital economy
Right.
and benefit from these advancements.
Yeah.
He also talks about the need for responsible innovation, ensuring that technology is developed and used ethically,
Okay.
and that it doesn't just create new forms of inequality.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but also about how we use it and
Precisely.
who benefits from it.
He gives this great example of how mobile banking has revolutionized financial access in Africa, allowing millions of people who were previously excluded from traditional banking systems to participate in the economy.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
But he also points out that if we're not careful, technology can exacerbate existing inequalities and create new ones.
Exactly.
So it's about being mindful of the potential consequences and making sure that technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
He encourages us to ask tough questions about who controls technology, who benefits from it, and how we can ensure that it's used to create a more just and equitable world.
Okay, so technology is clearly a powerful tool,
Right.
but we need to be thoughtful about how we use it.
Yeah.
What other big ideas does Nkwocha explore in the book?
Well, he dives into the need to move beyond unsustainable economic models.
Okay.
Have you heard of the circular economy?
I've come across the term, but I'm not sure I fully understand it.
In a nutshell, it's a shift from the traditional take, make, dispose model,
Right.
where we constantly extract resources, manufacture products, and then throw them away. Instead, it's about designing products and systems that are regenerative by nature,
Okay.
where materials are reused and recycled, minimizing waste and creating a closed loop.
So it's like mimicking nature's cycles,
Exactly.
where everything is interconnected and nothing goes to waste.
Right.
That's fascinating.
And it's not just about reducing waste.
Uh-huh.
It's about creating a more sustainable and equitable economic system
Okay.
that operates within the limits of our planet's resources.
And he also talks about degrowth, right?
He does.
That one seems a little more radical.
Degrowth challenges the idea that endless economic growth is the only path to progress.
Okay.
It suggests that maybe we need to shift our focus from constant expansion to well-being and sustainability,
Well,
prioritizing quality of life over quantity of stuff.
yeah,
A provocative idea,
it is.
but it's gaining traction as we face challenges like climate change and resource depletion.
It definitely makes you question our current economic paradigm.
It does.
What does Nkwocha propose as an alternative?
Well, he explores various alternative economic models,
Okay.
but he also emphasizes that the solution isn't just about finding the right model.
Okay.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our economic, social, and environmental systems
Yeah,
and finding ways to create a more balanced and sustainable way of life.
that makes sense. It's about seeing the bigger picture and understanding that we can't just keep doing things the way we've always done them. So where do we go from here? What does Nkwocha suggest as a path forward?
Well, he emphasizes the need for global cooperation and governance
Okay.
to tackle these interconnected challenges.
Yeah.
He dives into the roles of organizations like the UN, the IMF, and the World Bank,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing both their potential and their limitations.
Right, because these institutions are often criticized for being unrepresentative and sometimes even perpetuating inequality.
Exactly.
But at the same time, they're kind of the main mechanisms we have for global cooperation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nkwocha acknowledges the criticisms, but he also believes that these institutions can be forces for good if they are reformed
Mm-hmm.
and made more accountable to the needs of all nations, not just the most powerful ones.
So it's about finding a balance between respecting national sovereignty and recognizing that we need to work together
Absolutely.
to solve global problems that affect us all.
He argues that reforming trade policies to benefit developing nations,
Okay.
ensuring that international aid is effectively implemented,
Mm-hmm.
and finding ways to balance economic development with environmental sustainability are all crucial steps in the right direction.
It's a tall order.
It is.
But it sounds like Nkwocha believes that change is possible if we can shift our mindset and embrace a more collaborative and interconnected approach to solving these global issues.
Exactly. And that leads us to a really powerful theme that runs through the entire book,
Okay.
building a culture of peace.
Ah, yes. Peace. That seems like a distant dream in a world filled with so much conflict and division.
Yeah.
But Nkwocha clearly believes that it's possible,
He
right?
does, and he offered a really compelling vision of what a culture of peace might look like.
Okay.
He argues that peace is not just the absence of war, but a positive state of being, a way of relating to ourselves, each other, and the world around us.
So it's about more than just stopping violence.
It's about creating a society where everyone feels safe, respected, and valued, where differences are celebrated rather than feared,
Yeah.
and where conflict is resolved through dialogue and understanding rather than violence.
That sounds beautiful, but also incredibly challenging to achieve.
It is.
Where do we even begin?
Well, Nkwocha believes that it starts with individual actions,
Okay.
with each of us taking responsibility for our own thoughts, words, and actions.
So it's about being mindful of our own biases,
Yes.
challenging prejudices,
Yes.
and actively seeking out opportunities to connect with people from different backgrounds.
Exactly. It's about building bridges instead of walls, about listening with empathy rather than judgment, and about recognizing that we all have a role to play in creating a more peaceful world.
Okay, so individual actions matter.
They do.
But surely it takes more than that to create a lasting culture of peace.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He also talks about the importance of education in fostering a culture of peace. He believes that we need to start teaching kids about conflict resolution, empathy, and understanding different cultures from a young age.
Okay.
If we can instill these values in future generations, maybe we can break the cycle of violence and create a more peaceful world.
That makes sense. It's about changing hearts and minds, not
Yes.
just resolving conflicts after they erupt. But what about the role of institutions? Can't they play a role in promoting peace?
Nkwocha certainly thinks so.
Okay.
He highlights the importance of supporting organizations that focus on conflict resolution, diplomacy, and human rights.
Okay.
He also advocates for policies that prioritize peace building and diplomacy over militarization and aggression.
It sounds like he believes that peace isn't just some utopian ideal, it's something we can actively work towards
Exactly.
through a combination of individual actions, education, and institutional change.
Exactly. And his perspective is particularly poignant given his own experience as a refugee fleeing conflict.
Yeah.
It's clear that he understands both the devastating impact of war and the profound need for peace on a deeply personal level.
That's so powerful.
Yeah.
Makes his message all the more compelling.
Uh-huh.
So we've talked about tackling poverty and inequality, the importance of education, the potential and perils of technology, the need for global cooperation, and the vision of a culture of peace.
Right.
Is there anything else we should cover before we move on?
Well, there's one more topic that I think is particularly relevant to Nkwocha's personal journey. The legacy of colonialism and its lasting impact on the world today.
That's a heavy topic, but an important one.
It is.
What does Nkwocha have to say about it?
He shares a really powerful reflection on the effects of British colonization on his native Nigeria.
Okay.
He describes it as a period of profound upheaval
Yeah.
with lasting consequences that are still felt today.
I can imagine. Colonialism has left deep scars on so many parts of the world.
It has. He talks about the disruption of indigenous governance systems, the exploitation of resources for British economic gain, and the erosion of Nigerian culture and identity.
It's a reminder that colonialism wasn't just some abstract event in the past.
Right.
It was a lived experience with lasting impacts that continue to reverberate in the present.
Exactly. And he doesn't shy away from the painful realities of this period,
Yeah.
including forced labor and the imposition of British systems that often came at the expense of local traditions.
It's clear that this history continues to shape the challenges Nigeria faces today, from political instability to economic struggles.
Exactly. And Nkwocha's personal connection to this history makes his insights even more poignant.
Yeah.
It adds a depth of understanding that goes beyond the typical historical analysis.
It's a reminder that to address the ongoing challenges faced by countries that were once colonized,
Right.
we need to understand this history and its continued influence.
Absolutely. It underscores the need for a more just and equitable global system, one that acknowledges the legacies of colonialism and works to address the imbalances that persist today.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our history and understanding how past injustices continue to shape the present.
And it's also about finding ways to move forward, to create a future where all nations have the opportunity to thrive and prosper.
That's a perfect segue into the next section of the book,
Yes.
where Nkwocha delves into more specific global issues and solutions.
Right.
But before we dive into those, I think it's important to pause and reflect on what we've learned so far.
Okay.
What stood out to you about Nkwocha's approach to tackling these global issues?
I think what's most striking is his emphasis on both the interconnectedness of these issues and the potential for solutions.
Yeah.
He doesn't shy away from the complexities,
Right.
but he also offers a sense of hope and possibility,
Yeah.
showing that change is within our reach if we're willing to embrace new ideas and work together.
I completely agree. He's painting a picture of a world where we acknowledge our shared humanity and recognize that our destinies are intertwined. It's both inspiring and challenging, and it makes me want to learn more about the specific solutions he proposes.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here?
Well, in the next section, Nkwocha gets even more practical, diving into the topics like ending hunger, ensuring global health care, and promoting human rights and social justice.
Wow.
He offers tangible strategies and real-world examples of how these issues are being addressed.
Sounds fascinating. I'm eager to hear more about his specific solutions and how we can all play a part in creating a better world.
Me too. Let's
Yeah.
dive in.
Yeah.
So getting into those, like tangible solutions,
Yeah.
one of the first global issues Nkwocha tackles is hunger and famine.
Right.
It's something that's often overshadowed by other concerns,
Yeah.
but it has such devastating consequences for millions of people.
Absolutely. It's heartbreaking to think about people, especially children, going hungry every night. It feels like such a massive, complex problem.
Right.
Doesn't Nkwocha offer any hope for solutions?
He does. And what's interesting is he challenges the assumption that there isn't enough food to go around.
Oh.
He points out that we actually produce enough food globally to feed everyone.
Wow.
But the problem lies in distribution and access.
So it's not about scarcity, it's about inequality.
Exactly.
That we're not getting the food to the people who need it most.
And that's where Nkwocha's solutions come into play.
Okay.
He emphasizes addressing those root causes of poverty and inequality that prevent people from accessing food.
Right.
Think about things like fair trade practices that ensure farmers get a fair price of their crops, investing in sustainable agriculture that can help communities become more food secure, and supporting small-scale farmers in developing countries who are often the backbone of local food systems.
It sounds like empowering local communities to take control of their own food systems is a key part of his approach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He argues that giving people the tools and resources they need to grow their own food and build resilient local economies is essential for long-term food security.
But even with those local solutions, there are still global challenges like conflict and political instability that disrupt food supplies, right?
Of course.
And climate change is increasingly impacting agricultural productivity, leading to crop failures and making it even harder for people to get the food they need.
You're right. Those are huge factors.
Yeah.
And Nkwocha doesn't shy away from them.
Okay.
He highlights the need for better food distribution systems, reducing food waste, addressing those conflicts and political instability that disrupt food supplies, and tackling climate change head on.
So it's a multi-pronged approach, addressing both the local and global factors that contribute to hunger and famine.
He talks about the need for climate-smart agriculture, developing drought-resistant crops, and implementing policies that support sustainable farming practices.
Right.
He also emphasizes the importance of international cooperation to address these global challenges.
What I appreciate about Nkwocha's approach is that he's not just talking about these issues in abstract terms. He's offering concrete solutions and real-world examples of how things can be done differently.
I agree. He's presenting a roadmap for action. Combining global strategies with local solutions. And emphasizing that ending hunger is not some impossible dream, but an achievable goal if we have the collective will to make it happen.
Now, shifting gears a bit, Nkwocha also dives deep into the challenges and potential solutions for improving global healthcare. I'm really curious to hear what he has to say about this, as access to quality healthcare is, such a fundamental human right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He really paints a comprehensive picture of the landscape.
Okay.
Highlighting the vast disparities in access to healthcare between developed and developing countries, the rising costs of healthcare in many parts of the world, and the emergence of new global health threats, like pandemics, which we've all experienced firsthand.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder that while some people have access to the best medical care in the world, others struggle to get even basic medical attention.
It's true.
Yeah, doesn't Nkwocha offer any solutions for bridging this gap?
He does. He dives into the need for universal health care coverage, arguing that everyone should have access to quality health care, regardless of their income or social status. He sees it as a moral imperative. And he also points out that a healthier population is ultimately beneficial for society as a whole.
I couldn't agree more. Healthcare shouldn't be a privilege, it should be a right.
Absolutely.
But how do we even get there?
Well, Nkwocha talks about the need for increased investment in healthcare systems, particularly in developing countries. He also emphasizes the importance of preventive care and public health measures to address the root causes of disease and promote overall well-being.
So it's not just about treating people when they get sick.
Exactly.
It's about preventing them from getting sick in the first place.
He talks about investing in clean water and sanitation systems, promoting healthy lifestyles, and addressing environmental factors that contribute to disease. He also sees a huge opportunity in using technology to improve healthcare delivery and access, especially in remote areas.
That makes a lot of sense. Telemedicine, for example, has the potential to connect patients with doctors, even in the most remote locations.
Right. And think about mobile health apps that can provide people with information about their health and connect them to resources. Or artificial intelligence that can assist doctors with diagnoses and treatment planning. These are just a few examples of how technology can help bridge the healthcare gap and make quality care more accessible to everyone.
But technology alone isn't enough, is it?
Yeah,
We also need effective policies and global cooperation to create a more just and equitable healthcare system.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Nkwocha delves into the complexities of global health policies and governance,
Mm.
highlighting the role of international organizations
Yeah.
like the World Health Organization
Yeah.
in coordinating global health efforts
Yeah.
and responding to pandemics.
Right.
He calls for more inclusive, transparent, and accountable global health governance mechanisms that prioritize the needs of the most vulnerable populations.
It's about recognizing that health is a global issue
Right.
that requires a coordinated and collaborative approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Nkwocha argues that ensuring everyone has access to quality health care is not only a moral imperative,
Mm.
but also a crucial investment in human potential and global well-being.
Now, speaking of investing in human potential, Nkwocha also dedicates a significant portion of the book to, the transformative power of education.
Yeah.
It's something we touched on earlier with the barefoot college example,
Right.
but he goes even deeper into the importance of education for creating a more just and equitable world.
He really goes beyond just talking about basic education.
Right.
He explores the need for lifelong learning, addressing the education gap that
Oh,
persists in many parts of the world,
yeah.
and ensuring that everyone has access to quality education throughout their lives.
It's a powerful reminder that education isn't just about getting a degree. It's about empowering individuals to reach their full potential, to be active and engaged citizens,
Right.
and to contribute to their communities and the world around them.
And he starts by highlighting the challenges,
Oh.
like the millions of children worldwide who are denied access to education
Yeah,
due to poverty, conflict, or discrimination.
right.
He talks about the need to address these systemic issues
Mm-hmm.
and to ensure that all children, regardless of their background or circumstances,
Yeah.
have the opportunity to learn and grow.
It's heartbreaking to think about all the potential that's being wasted
It is.
because children are denied access to education.
He also discusses the gender gap in education,
Right.
highlighting that girls in many countries still face significant barriers to accessing quality education.
Absolutely.
This not only limits their individual opportunities,
Yeah.
but also holds back entire societies from reaching their full potential.
It's a matter of social justice, but it also makes economic sense.
Absolutely.
When we invest in girls' education, we're investing in the future of our communities,
Yeah.
in our world.
Nkwocha couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
He advocates for increased investment in education, particularly in developing countries,
Okay.
emphasizing the need to build more schools, train more teachers, and provide financial assistance to families who can't afford to send their children to school.
But it's not just about access to education, it's also about the quality of education, right?
Right.
We need to make sure that schools are providing children with the skills and knowledge they need to thrive in the 21st century.
Absolutely. He talks about updating curricula to meet the demands of the modern world,
Okay.
incorporating technology into the classroom,
Right.
and focusing on skills like critical thinking, problem solving, and creativity that are essential for success in today's rapidly changing workforce.
So it's about preparing students not just for jobs, but for life.
Yeah.
For being active and engaged citizens who can contribute to solving these complex challenges we face.
Exactly. And he also emphasizes the importance of lifelong learning,
Yeah.
recognizing that education shouldn't end when we finish school.
Right.
In a world that's constantly changing, we need to be continuously learning and adapting, developing new skills,
Makes sense.
and expanding our knowledge.
What kind of policies or programs does he suggest to support lifelong learning?
He talks about creating more opportunities for adult education,
Okay.
supporting online learning platforms,
Right.
and providing professional development opportunities to help people stay relevant in the workforce and keep their skills sharp.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
The world is changing so rapidly, and the jobs of today might not even exist tomorrow.
That's true.
We need to be prepared to adapt and evolve throughout our lives.
Absolutely. And technology plays a big role in this.
Right.
He highlights the potential of online courses, mobile learning apps, and other digital tools
Yeah.
to make education more accessible, affordable, and convenient for people of all ages and backgrounds.
It's about using technology to democratize access to knowledge and to empower individuals to take control of their own learning journey.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of creating a more just and equitable world: promoting human rights and social justice.
Okay.
Nkwocha doesn't shy away from the harsh realities of human rights abuses that persist around the world,
Yeah.
from discrimination and poverty to violence and oppression.
These are like heavy topics, but they're essential to address if we want to create a better world.
Absolutely.
What's Nkwocha's take on these issues?
He dives into the complexities,
Okay.
exploring the historical roots of inequality, the role of power structures in perpetuating injustice,
Yeah.
and the interconnectedness of various forms of oppression. He argues that we can't effectively address one form of oppression without addressing others.
So, for example, we can't achieve gender equality without also tackling racial injustice and economic inequality.
Precisely. He sees all forms of oppression as interconnected.
Right.
And he believes that dismantling these systems of power and privilege requires a holistic approach that addresses the root causes of injustice.
It sounds like he's advocating for a systemic change,
He is.
not just Band-Aid solutions.
Exactly. And he offers a framework for action,
Okay.
highlighting the importance of promoting human rights
Yeah.
and advocating for social justice at all levels, from individual actions to global movements.
Yeah.
He talks about the power of grassroots activism, the role of international organizations in upholding human rights standards, and the importance of holding governments accountable for their actions.
But individual actions matter too, right?
Absolutely.
It's not just up to governments and institutions to solve these problems.
He emphasizes that each of us has a role to play in promoting human rights and social justice, whether it's speaking out against injustice, supporting organizations that are working to create a more just world, or simply being mindful of our own biases and prejudices.
It sounds like he's calling for a shift in consciousness,
A
recognition that we're all interconnected and that our actions have an impact on others.
Precisely. He believes that creating a more just and equitable world requires both systemic change and individual transformation.
Now, speaking of transformation, Nkwocha also devotes a significant portion of the book to exploring the power of innovation as a key driver of positive change.
Right.
I'm curious to hear more about his perspective on this.
He argues that human ingenuity and our capacity for innovation are essential tools for tackling the complex challenges facing the world today.
Yeah.
And he goes beyond just talking about technological innovation, although that's certainly a big part of it. He also explores social, political, and even cultural innovation as ways to address systemic issues and create more just and equitable systems.
That's interesting. So he's not just talking about inventing new gadgets, but about rethinking the way we do things.
Exactly.
And coming up with creative solutions to the problems we face.
He dives into the possibilities of emerging technologies, like artificial intelligence, blockchain, renewable energy, and biotechnology.
Yeah.
Showcasing how these advancements can be harnessed to improve lives and protect the planet.
That's the kind of innovation I can get excited about, you know? Using technology to solve real-world problems and make a positive impact.
He talks about using AI to develop more efficient and sustainable energy systems. Using blockchain to create more transparent and accountable supply chains, and using biotechnology to develop new treatments for diseases.
It sounds like he's envisioning a future where technology is used for the benefit of all humanity, not just a select few.
Exactly. But he also recognizes the importance of responsible innovation.
Yeah.
He talks about the need to address the digital divide, ensure that technology is used ethically, and guard against the potential for these advancements to exacerbate existing inequalities or create new ones.
So it's not just about the technology itself, but also about how it's developed and used.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He's calling for a more thoughtful and deliberate approach to innovation. One that prioritizes human well-being, social justice, and environmental sustainability.
It's about using technology to empower people, not to control them.
Exactly. And he doesn't stop there. He also explores the potential of social innovation to address social inequality, showcasing examples like microfinance programs that empower women in developing countries, community-owned renewable energy projects, and online platforms that connect people with resources and opportunities.
It sounds like he's advocating for a more bottom-up approach to innovation, empowering communities to find solutions that work for them.
Exactly. Yeah. And he also dives into the realm of political innovation, exploring experiments in participatory demography, new models of governance that prioritize citizen participation and transparency, and innovative approaches to conflict resolution.
It sounds like he's challenging the status quo and pushing for a more inclusive and responsive form of governance.
He is. And he even discusses the potential for technology to enhance democratic processes. Like using online platforms to facilitate citizen deliberation and decision-making.
It's fascinating to think about how technology can be used to empower citizens
Yeah.
and make democracy more participatory.
And finally, he touches on the concept of cultural innovation,
Okay.
arguing that changing our values, beliefs, and behaviors is just as important as changing our technologies and systems.
So it's not just about changing the world around us,
Right.
but also about changing ourselves.
Exactly. He talks about promoting a culture of peace,
Okay.
embracing diversity and inclusion,
Uh-huh.
and shifting our focus from material consumption
Yeah.
to well-being and sustainability. It's about recognizing that lasting change requires a transformation of our hearts and minds,
Oh.
as much as our technologies and institutions.
What I find so inspiring about Nwosha's exploration of innovation is that he doesn't just present it as a solution to our problems, he presents it as an opportunity to create a better world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He's inviting us to see innovation as a force for good, a way to unleash human potential,
Right.
and a path toward a more just, equitable, and sustainable future.
And that leads us to his discussion of global governance and cooperation, which is, becoming increasingly important in our interconnected world.
Right. Nwokha argues that addressing global challenges like climate change, pandemics, economic instability, and conflict
Yeah.
requires a coordinated and collaborative approach
It's
that transcends national borders.
He explores the history of global governance, the challenges it faces, and the opportunities for reform and innovation, right?
Exactly.
Okay, let's delve into that. He starts by looking at existing international institutions like the United Nations, the World Bank, and the World Trade Organization, right?
He does.
These are like the main players on the global stage,
Yeah.
but they're often criticized for being, bureaucratic,
Right.
inefficient, and even undemocratic.
He acknowledges those criticisms
Okay.
and dives into the reasons why they struggled to effectively address some of the most pressing global issues.
Uh-huh.
He also talks about the rise of nationalism and populism,
Yeah.
the erosion of trust in institutions,
Right.
and the increasing complexity of global issues, all of which make effective global governance even more challenging.
It sounds like he's not afraid to call out the shortcomings of the current system.
He isn't. But he also believes in the importance of multilateralism,
Okay.
arguing that working together is essential for addressing challenges that transcend national borders.
Yeah.
He reminds us that we've seen successes through international cooperation, like the eradication of smallpox,
Wow.
the Montreal Protocol that phased out ozone-depleting substances,
Okay.
and the Paris Agreement on climate change.
Yeah.
Those are hopeful examples of what can be achieved when nations come together
Right.
to solve common problems.
But what about the challenges he mentioned? Like, how do we address those?
He talks about the need for global governance structures to adapt to the rapidly changing world.
Okay.
He explores the impact of technology on global governance,
Yeah.
both the opportunities it presents for enhanced communication and collaboration,
Yeah.
and the challenges it poses with things like cyber attacks and the spread of misinformation.
It's like we're in uncharted territory
Yeah.
with technology rapidly changing the landscape of global affairs.
Exactly. And he also stresses the need for a more human-centered approach to global governance,
Okay.
prioritizing the well-being of individuals and communities
Right.
over national interests and power dynamics. He sees global governance as a way to promote human rights,
Mm-hmm.
ensure social justice,
Right.
and create a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
That's a powerful vision.
It is.
But how do we even get there? What specific steps does he propose?
He dives into some really interesting and sometimes radical ideas.
Okay.
He suggests creating a global parliament
Okay.
that would be directly elected by citizens around the world,
Wow.
establishing a global tax on financial transactions to fund global public goods,
Okay.
and even implementing a global basic income.
Those are pretty bold proposals.
They are.
I'm not sure how feasible they are politically.
Right.
But it's great that he's like pushing the boundaries
Yeah.
and challenging us to think bigger.
He also talked about more practical steps,
Okay.
like reforming existing international institutions, strengthening international law,
Right.
and promoting greater transparency and accountability in global governance processes.
It sounds like he's advocating for a multi-pronged approach
He is.
that combines bold visions with pragmatic steps.
Exactly. And he emphasizes the importance of engaging non-state actors,
Okay.
like civil society organizations, businesses,
Yeah.
and citizens themselves in global governance processes.
It's about recognizing that effective governance requires a collaborative and inclusive approach
Right.
that harnesses the strengths and perspectives of all stakeholders.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He sees a role for everyone in shaping a better future,
Right.
from individuals making conscious choices in their daily lives to governments collaborating on the global stage.
It's inspiring to hear him talk about the potential for collective action to
Yeah.
create a more just, equitable, and sustainable world.
It is.
But I'm also wondering about the role of economics in all of this.
Yeah.
Like, how do we create an economic system that supports these goals
Right.
rather than working against them?
That's a great question, and it's something Nkwocha dives into in detail.
Okay.
He challenges the traditional model of endless economic growth,
Yeah.
arguing that it's not sustainable in a world with finite resources and a changing climate.
He's not alone in that critique. More and more people are recognizing that our current economic system is out of balance with the natural world.
Yes.
And that we need to find a more sustainable path.
He also argues that GDP, the traditional measure of economic growth,
Yeah.
is a flawed metric
Okay.
that doesn't capture the true well-being of people and the planet.
Right.
He points out that GDP can go up even as inequality increases, environmental degradation worsens,
Right.
and people's quality of life declines.
It's like we're measuring the wrong things.
Right.
We're focused on economic growth at all costs, even if it's undermining our well-being and
Right.
destroying the planet in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
He suggests a more holistic view of prosperity, one that takes into account factors like social well-being, environmental sustainability, and the distribution of wealth. He explores alternative economic models,
Okay.
like the circular economy, which emphasizes resource efficiency and waste reduction,
Right.
and the sharing economy, which promotes collaborative consumption and access over individual ownership.
Those are really interesting concepts. It's about rethinking the way we produce and consume goods and services, moving away from the linear model of take, make, dispose toward a more circular and sustainable system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he also talks about the importance of measuring well-being directly,
Okay.
using indices like the Gross National Happiness Index
Yeah.
developed in Bhutan.
It takes into account factors like mental health, community vitality,
Right.
and environmental quality to assess the true state of a nation's well-being
Right.
rather than just looking at economic indicators.
He's saying we need to measure what matters.
Yeah.
That true prosperity is about more than just money.
Right.
It's about creating a society where everyone has the opportunity to live a fulfilling and meaningful life in balance with nature.
He also dives into how we can make sustainability a pillar of economic growth,
Right.
arguing that transitioning to a green economy
Yes.
is both an environmental necessity and an economic opportunity.
He sees the potential for green technologies to create new jobs,
Right.
stimulate innovation,
Yeah.
and drive economic growth that's both sustainable and equitable.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's about reframing sustainability,
Right.
not as a burden or a cost, but as a source of economic growth
Right.
and opportunity.
He highlights the need for government policies that incentivize sustainable practices,
Okay.
like carbon pricing, feed-in tariffs for renewable energy,
Right.
and regulations that promote resource efficiency.
It's about creating a system where sustainability is not just something we do on the side,
Right.
but is woven into the fabric of our economic system.
And he also stresses the role of social equity in achieving true prosperity,
Okay.
arguing that we can't have a truly prosperous society if wealth is concentrated in the hands of a few,
Right.
while others struggle to make ends meet.
It's about recognizing that economic justice is essential for a healthy and thriving society.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He talks about the need to reduce income inequality, promote social mobility,
Right.
and ensure that everyone has access to opportunities,
Yeah.
regardless of their background or circumstances.
He explores policies like progressive taxation, universal basic income, and investments in education and healthcare as ways to create a more just and equitable society.
It's about creating a system where everyone has a chance to succeed.
Yeah.
And where the benefits of economic growth are shared more equitably.
He concludes this section by offering some really practical steps that we
Yeah.
can take as individuals,
Right.
communities,
Well,
and nations to move toward a more holistic view of prosperity,
yeah.
urging us to measure what matters,
Right.
adopt sustainable practices,
Yeah.
promote social equity,
Yeah.
and foster international cooperation.
Absolutely.
It's a powerful reminder that we have the power to create a future where prosperity is not just a measure of wealth,
Right.
but a reflection of the well-being of people and the planet.
Now, speaking of power,
Okay.
Nkwocha dedicates a significant portion of the book to revitalizing democratic institutions.
Okay.
He recognizes that democracy is facing unprecedented challenges around the world,
Yeah.
from the rise of populism and authoritarianism
Well,
to the erosion of trust in institutions
right.
and the increasing influence of money in politics.
These are certainly daunting challenges.
ER.
Does he offer any hope for solutions?
He does. He argues that democracy is worth fighting for,
Yeah.
and that we need to find ways to strengthen and revitalize democratic institutions to meet the challenges of the 21st century.
Right.
He begins by exploring the historical context of democracy,
Yep.
tracing its evolution from ancient Greece to the modern era,
Uh-huh.
and highlighting its key principles like free and fair elections,
Okay.
the rule of law, and the protection of individual rights.
Uh-huh.
It's a reminder that democracy is not something that just happens.
Right.
It's something we have to actively work for
Right,
and
yeah.
defend.
And then he dives into, like, the specific challenges facing democracy today.
Right.
Yeah.
He talks about the spread of misinformation and the rise of social media,
Yeah.
the growing gap between the rich and the poor,
Yeah.
and the increasing complexity of global issues, all of which are putting a strain on democratic institutions
Right.
and making it harder for them to function effectively.
It can feel overwhelming to think about all the forces that are working against democracy these days. Does he offer any concrete solutions?
He does.
Okay.
He lays out a roadmap for action, outlining concrete steps that we can take to revitalize democratic institutions and strengthen democratic practices. One thing he emphasizes throughout the book is the importance of civic engagement.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Democracy can't thrive without the active participation of citizens.
He talks about the importance of voting,
Yeah.
of course.
Right.
But he also encourages people to get involved in their communities,
Right.
advocate for issues they care about,
Uh-huh.
and hold their elected officials accountable.
It's about being an active participant in shaping our democracy,
Exactly.
rather than just a passive observer.
He also highlights the importance of a free and independent press,
Yeah, absolutely.
the role of civil society organizations in advocating for democratic values,
Mhm.
and the need for strong institutions that can resist corruption and abuse of power.
Right. These are all essential pillars of a healthy democracy.
He also explores innovative approaches to democracy,
Okay.
like participatory budgeting,
Right.
where citizens have a direct say in how public funds are spent,
Okay.
and deliberative democracy,
Mm.
which emphasizes reasoned discussion and consensus building among citizens.
It's about finding ways to make democracy more responsive to the needs of citizens
Yeah.
and to empower people to have a greater say in the decisions that affect their lives.
He even discusses the potential for technology to enhance democratic processes,
Right.
like using online platforms
Yeah.
to facilitate citizen deliberation
Okay.
and make voting more accessible.
Mhm. It's fascinating to think about how technology can be used to strengthen democracy
Right.
rather than undermine it.
But technology can also be used to manipulate and undermine democracy, right?
Absolutely.
Think about the spread of misinformation and the use of social media to manipulate public opinion. You're right. That's why Nkwocha emphasizes the need for media literacy, critical thinking skills, and responsible use of technology. He also talks about the importance of regulating technology companies and holding them accountable for the ways their platforms are used.
It sounds like he's calling for a balanced approach, recognizing both the potential and the risks of technology in the context of democracy.
Exactly. He believes that technology can be a powerful tool for strengthening democracy, but only if it's used responsibly and ethically.
Now let's dive into the nitty-gritty of elections. Nkwocha gets into the mechanics of electoral systems, exploring different systems and their pros and cons.
He talks about the importance of ensuring that elections are free and fair, that all eligible voters have access to the ballot box, and that the results accurately reflect the will of the people.
It's about protecting the integrity of our elections and making sure our democracy truly represents the people. But he doesn't shy away from the challenges, right?
Not at all. He dives into issues like voter suppression, gerrymandering, and the influence of money in politics, all of which can undermine the integrity of elections and erode public trust in democracy.
So what does he propose we do about these challenges?
He advocates for a range of reforms, like automatic voter registration, independent redistricting commissions, and campaign finance reform to limit the influence of money in politics.
Those sound like common sense solutions to make our democracy more fair and representative.
He also explores alternative models of democracy, challenging the assumption that our current model of representative democracy is the only or even the best way to govern ourselves.
This is where he gets into some really radical ideas, right? I'm curious to hear what he proposes.
One model he discusses is sortition, which involves selecting government officials by lottery rather than through elections.
Wow, that's a completely different approach. What's the thinking behind that?
The idea is that a randomly selected group of citizens would be more representative of the population as a whole than a group of elected officials who often come from privileged backgrounds and are beholden to special interests.
It's a way to break the power of elites and create a system where everyone has an equal chance to participate in government.
He also talked about deliberative democracy, which emphasizes reasoned discussion and consensus building among citizens as a way to make decisions. It's about creating a space where people can come together, listen to each other's perspectives, and work collaboratively to find solutions that benefit everyone.
That sounds like a refreshing change from the often divisive nature of politics today.
He sees these alternative models as potential ways to address the shortcomings of our current democratic systems and create a more just and equitable society. It's about reimagining what democracy can be and making it more responsive to the people. And that brings us to a topic that's increasingly important in the digital age: enhancing global security in a technological age.
That's a huge topic. Technology has revolutionized so many aspects of our lives, but it's also created new challenges and risks, especially when it comes to global security.
Exactly. This is where the book takes a fascinating turn, exploring the complex intersection of technology, security, and global governance.
What are some of the key issues he highlights? I imagine cyber warfare is a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
He talks about the rise of cyber warfare, the proliferation of autonomous weapons systems, the spread of misinformation and propaganda online, and the potential for AI to be used for both good and evil. It's a sobering assessment of the risks we face in this technological age.
It sounds like a bit of a double-edged sword. Technology can be used to enhance security, that it can also be used to undermine it.
Exactly. And Nkwocha doesn't just focus on the threats. He also explores the potential for technology to enhance global security.
So how can we use technology to make the world a safer place?
He talks about things like using AI to detect and prevent cyber attacks, using blockchain technology to create more secure and transparent systems, and using international cooperation to establish norms and regulations for emerging technologies. It's about finding ways to harness the power of technology for good while mitigating the risks and ensuring these advancements are used responsibly.
It sounds like it requires a delicate balance, being aware of both the potential and the pitfalls of technology.
One thing he emphasizes is the need for a more holistic approach to security. He argues that we can't just focus on military strength or technological solutions. We need to address the underlying factors that contribute to instability and conflict, like poverty, inequality, and environmental degradation.
That's a really important point. True security comes from addressing the root causes of conflict and creating a more just and equitable world.
Exactly. And he talks about the importance of diplomacy, conflict resolution, and peace building as essential components of global security. He also stresses the need for a human-centered approach, ensuring that security measures do not come at the expense of individual rights and freedoms. It's about finding a balance between security and liberty, recognizing that true security lies in creating a world where everyone can live in dignity and peace.
It's been an incredible journey exploring all these ideas with you. Nkwocha covers so much ground in this book, from tackling poverty to redefining prosperity, revitalizing democracy, and enhancing global security. What really stood out to you?
It's hard to pick just one thing. What I find so inspiring is that he doesn't just present problems, he offers practical and actionable solutions. He weaves together personal stories, expert insights, and real-world examples to paint a vivid picture of both the challenges and the possibilities.
It's a powerful reminder that we're not powerless in the face of global issues. Every action we take, every choice we make, can contribute to creating a better world.
And if you want to dive even deeper into these ideas, I highly recommend checking out the book How We Can Fix Things by Kizzi Nkwocha. It's a treasure trove of insights and inspiration.
This deep dive has showed us that fixing global issues isn't just about grand schemes. It's about understanding the interconnectedness of everything. From those solar mamas in India lighting up villages to the potential of something like universal basic income, the solutions are out there. What really struck you as possible in your own world after exploring all of this?
It's about recognizing our shared humanity and understanding that our actions have a ripple effect. We're not just individuals, we're part of a global community, and we have a responsibility to each other and to the planet.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into how we can fix things. If this sparked your curiosity, I encourage you to explore the book further. There's so much more to discover.
And as you go about your day, we'll leave you with this. We talked a lot about UBI's potential impact on traditional work, but with AI and automation already changing the job landscape, could UBI be a way to adapt to the future of work rather than fear it?
That's a fantastic question to ponder. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, keep seeking those solutions that lightweigh you up.